a God that keeps us through many dangers, toils, and snares. We've already come because of the keeping ability and the grace of our God. It's good to be alive. It's good to be alive, and it's good to be in church. And not only is it good to be alive, but just to know you're alive. That's a blessing. For there are some people who are alive, but they're not aware that they are alive. But since God has kept you in your right mind, you ought to give him praise. I want to pause to say thank you to Dr. King for this opportunity, this precious privilege to share in the citywide revival here. I'm grateful for you, man of God, for opening this door. I want to thank God for Pastor Phillips, who gave you my name, and I want to thank you for graciously accepting this privilege of allowing me to come. There are so many, as I said, every night that are probably more capable than I am to stand here at this moment, but I want to thank you for allowing me to stand here in this citywide revival. Why don't you stand? Let's give our president a hand, Dr. King. Come on, give him a big hand, will you? While you're standing, let's honor the godfather of our city, a living legend, Reverend Dr. Calvinist. Come on, let's give it up for him, will you? And to all of you that are sharing here, to all of the presidents of the various organizations, to all of the moderators, and to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence in this place tonight. I do want to say thank you to Reverend McDougall and to Reverend Lagan. They are experiencing death in their family, but they're here with us tonight, and so we say thank you to them. Come on, let's encourage them, both of them. And to all of the preachers and pastors who have been so kind, thank you so much for your confidence in me to allow me to share. Then I want to thank God for Temple. Wherever you are, stand. All the Temple stand. Remain standing for a minute. Wow, look at here. Come on, you can give us a hand, will you? Come on, you can do better than that. Amen. Temple, I want you to know that you have been amazing this week in sharing with me. Thank you for not letting me come over here by myself. I appreciate your presence. Our chairman is here, and all mothers are here, and choir, they're here tonight. Thank you, choir. A remnant of our choir sung tonight. Musicians have been here every night, and members have been here, and I want you to know that I really, really appreciate you coming and sharing and supporting this week. Give Temple another hand, will you? Thank you so much. Thank you. And then finally, I have a presentation. On Saturday, Dr. Jerry Young called me. Those of you who have been around church any length of time, you know he is the president of our national organization of the National Baptist Convention, USA Incorporated. And I didn't answer his call Saturday, Sunday, nor Monday, and when I figured out it was him, I thought I was in trouble. For when your chieftain calls you, amen, and when he calls you after hours, you know something must not be right. So I called him, but to my surprise, I'm still in good graces with him, and he wanted me to make a presentation on behalf of he and our National Baptist Convention to Pastor Walter Houston He sent $300 from himself. Yeah, come on, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate our convention, will you? Is he still in here? Where is he? Okay, all right, well, he'll get it before the night is out. Let's thank God for Pastor Houston as well, will you? All right, I know the hour is late. Hebrews chapter 10. I want to commence reading at verse 32. But recall the former days in which, after ye were illuminated, you endured a great struggle with sufferings, partly while you were made a spectacle both by reproaches and tribulations, partly while you became companions of those who were so treated. For you had compassion on me in my chains, and joyfully accepted the plundering of your goods, knowing that you have a better and an enduring possession for yourselves in heaven. Therefore, do not cast away your confidence, which has great reward. For you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. I just want to close this series of messages tonight just by telling you, don't let it die now. Shake a neighbor's hand and say, neighbor, don't let it die now. Amen. Shake another neighbor's hand and say, neighbor, don't let it die now. I want to thank all of our ushers. One of our usher ministries is here tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate you. Story is cold. One winter day, a family decided that they were going to go south for the winter. They left the door cracked, and a little kitten found his way out of the cold for survival. And as he walked around in the house, to his surprise, he saw that there was a fireplace that was still lit. He went over there while it was snowing. The weather was inclement on the outside. He went over there and he sat there by the fireplace. And I hate to report to you that the kitten ultimately died by freezing to death because he was warming by an artificial fire. And I've come here tonight to suggest to you that someone's worship, work, and witness has been dying because of your warming agent. You have been warming yourself by an artificial fire. And now ultimately, your walk, your witness, and your work and your worship has become cold and chilled. And I wanted to come to you on this last night to help reheat your fire. There's a lot of work that we have left to do. Our churches are behind in schedule as saving souls. Cemeteries are jammed now. Sales are jammed now. Churches are empty. It has to be something wrong. I wanted to come to discuss this because the theologians have declared that Hebrews chapter 10 is really called the tragedy of getting over it, because it deals with the people who had heard the gospel. It deals with those who have come face to face with their claims of Christ. They have been associated with his church in some kind of way, but now they've gone away. Their hearts were once on fire, but they used to be warm toward the gospel of Christ. They made some kind of superficial commitment to their faith in him. They've been identified visibly with him, but now their enthusiasm is chilling at the cost of being a Christian, because now they've decided that the cost of Christianity is too high. I'm preaching to a people in here tonight that's probably why you've gotten over the gospel in church, because being a Christian costs too much. You're suggesting that it's costing me too much time to be connected to the church. It's costing me too much of my time and my talents. I have to give too much to the church. But I want to suggest to you, child of God, when you know how good God has been, you don't allow the interests and the things of God to decrease because of the pressures around you. Because when the pressure has been high, God has still been great. God has still been touching you. He's been transitioning you. God has still been giving you triumph in your life. But the problem is something in you has died. I don't know if it has to deal with church work, church wickedness. I don't know what it is. Something in you has died, and I wanted to come to you to suggest to you that God saved you to be more than what you have been. God has saved you to do more work than what you've been doing. And I wanted to suggest to you, child of God, he really teaches about apostasy, but I won't go into all that tonight, because when you deal with apostasy, it's not determined by what or who you leave or where you go after you leave, because after a person leaves God, it makes no difference where he goes, because he's held bound. And I wanted to come because there are some of you that have tasted of the goodness and the graciousness of God. And even like on a service like tonight, we've heard music and dancing. We've heard instrumentals. We've heard all of this. And some of you haven't moved yet because there's a chill in you. You've heard the name of Jesus. We've been here 3 nights and nobody is concerned that nobody has walked the aisle. Nobody's concerned that the altar hadn't been opened where people can come to the altar and lay their burdens down. Nobody is concerned about prayer in the church anymore. It's because there's a chill in you. And I wanted to come to suggest to you, child of God, theologically, when you deal with the book of Hebrews, it literally means theologically, God has spoken, now how will you respond? Because there are people in our world and time, every Sunday, they get up suggesting that I want a rhema word, I want a revelational word, but the thing is, rhema means right now for this purpose, but the problem is you got rhema word, but later on intentions. So God has spoken. How many more instructions will God have to give you? What more is God going to have to say? What else is God going to have to do for you to keep your fire? And I wanted to come tonight to preach this because it's not just in Temple, it's in every church in Cleveland. And I want to come to address this issue tonight because there's some deadness in all of us. And if this revival is going to be what God will have it to be, somebody here, you need God to light your flame again. You need God to light your fire again, because it has nothing to do with who's preaching is why you don't shout. It has nothing to do with who's singing is why you don't clap. It has nothing to do with the church you're in. It has nothing to do with the pastor that's leading the church, because the pastor and the choir members didn't die for you. Something has happened to you. You have become chilly and cold. And I want to help you out these few minutes that I have left here tonight. Text says in verse 32, but recall the former days in which after you were illuminated, enlightened, that you endured a great struggle with sufferings. First thing I want to suggest to you, child of God, if your fire will continue to burn, he says, first thing you need to do, you need to recollect past afflictions. You need to look back and remember your past trials. You need to look back and look at your tribulations and your trouble. He says that you've already endured persecutions because of your profession of your faith. He says, but they were all to enlighten you. In other words, to make you see. But he said you had to endure. That word in the Greek is hupomeno, which literally means to remain under. So he's saying that the problem with you is I gave you situations in your life. I let you intentionally stay behind them, let you intentionally stay under them because it made you stronger. And you need to know, child of God, when you work for the Lord, trouble will come. Trials will come. Wicked people will come after you. When you address the assignment that God has given you, everybody's not going to like the anointing and the power that's on your life, but God says to you that I have enlightened you. So then I had to ask the question, why are you enlightening us? And number one, he says, the first reason I wanted you to recollect your past afflictions and I enlighten you is because you need to first of all show your faith of Christ to sinners. Because look at verse 33a, he says, partly while you were made a spectacle, both for reproaches and tribulations, partly while you were become companions of those who were so like treated. He's saying that you have been a gazing stock. The word here is theatrizo in the Greek, which literally where we get our word theater, which literally means that they were on stage. They were exposed to ridicule, shame, and contempt. And I'm not surprised when sinners talk about saints, but I am shocked when saints talk about saints. I can't hear nobody in here. We have been called to show faith to sinners, and if sinners don't see the God in us, if sinners don't see us together, if sinners don't see the church taking a stand, if sinners don't see us coming together, then where can they find a visible display of God making a way as he's done for the Christians? And I just believe that somebody in here can suggest, I got a story to tell the sinners that the same God that saved me by grace. I wish I had about 50 of you in here, and I wish it wasn't closer to 9 o'clock. I wish it was closer to 8 o'clock. And I'm just going to run through this. I got a whole lot to say, but I'm going to cut across the field. You ought to shake somebody's hand and say, neighbor, he saved me. And if he could save me, he can save you too. He says, don't you forget about your past afflictions. But then he says that not only must you show your faith in Christ to sinners, but he says in verse 33b, he says those that were so like you, he says you need to share your faith in Christ with the saints. You see, child of God, in the world, we share with the sinners what God can do, but when we come in here, we ought to be testifying to each other. Instead of making the church a gossiping center, we need to make the church a testifying center. And I don't know about you, but have you been through enough in your day that when you come to church, you don't want to hear no mess, you don't want to hear no gossip, you need to hear, is there a word from the Lord? Can you shake somebody's hand and say, neighbor, if you're going to sit beside me, tell me what the Lord can do in my life. I can't hear nobody in here. They were showing compassion on those that were incarcerated, those that were in prison because of their confession and faith. They sat beside them to let them know it's going to be all right, that God still opens closed doors. And I'm preaching to somebody in here that you need to encourage that person that's sitting next to you, because they are in some kind of prison of some kind. They are incarcerated in some kind of way, whether it be mentally, physically, financially, socially, or relationally, and especially spiritually. But thanks be unto God, they're sitting beside somebody that's free. And if the Lord freed them, he can free you too. But look at it again. I gotta quit. Look at it again. He says they showed their faith of Christ to sinners. They shared their faith of Christ with the saints. But then listen, here's the third thing about this. They successfully confiscated their substance. I'm not making it up, because he says that they took their losses with joy. I'm so tired of saints having a pity party because of what they lost. Saints ought to be shouting about what they got left. The problem is we are crying and throwing pity parties over temporal stuff when our eternal stuff can't be touched. And I'm preaching to somebody here, you've lost sight over what you got already stored up on the other side. Somebody here ought to take at least 30 seconds and give God praise for some losses that were actually gains. Come on, shake a neighbor's hand and say, neighbor, I lost some stuff, but it was actually a gain. Now, how could they take their loss with joy? The reason they could take their loss with joy is because they were looking ahead to Christ, and it made their crisis comfortable. In other words, they're saying, though we lost some stuff on earth, the Lord still got us surrounded. The Lord still got us protected. The Lord is still going to provide for us, because they say, though we lose stuff in this land, the Lord got us hooked up on the other side. And you know, when I was in Mississippi, you know, they used to sing this song, I got a new home over in glory, and it's mine. They say, I got a new walk over in glory, and it's mine. I got a new name over in glory, and it's mine. I got some stuff on the other side that the devil can't touch. I got some stuff on the other side that the enemies can't get to. Can anybody here thank God for the setup that's on the other side? I can't hear so well in here. Shake somebody's hand. Shake somebody's hand and say, neighbor, there's a setup on the other side. Come on, tell them like you mean it. Tell them, neighbor, there's a setup on the other side. Tell that neighbor on the other side, neighbor, there's a setup on the other side. Here it is. I gotta quit. He says, recollect your past afflictions. But then when I get to verse 35, and I'm just about through, he says you need to rekindle your personal affirmations. I'm not making it up. He says, don't cast away your confidence, which has great reward. All I want to tell you with that point, I got a lot to say about that, but all I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you one phrase with it. Your faith is going to pay off. You have come too far to throw away your conviction now. I know it looked like the church stuff is not working for you, but if you hang around, God is up to something that you can't see. God is working some stuff out that you can't see. You just got to believe it before you behold it. And I'm preaching to somebody in here that all you've had the last 5, 10, or 20 years is nothing but your faith in God. But I wish I could put it in a pill and make you swallow it before you give up and throw in the towel, to tell you to just keep on believing, because God is up to something and your faith is going to pay off. The problem is, you have thrown away your exams that got the answers on it. The problem is, you've thrown away your tests that got the answers on it. And every question and every dilemma got the same answer: Jesus only. I thought I was in a Baptist church. I said every question and every situation, the answer is still the same: Jesus only. I need about 70 of you in here, and I'll make 71, to open up your mouth and say, my answer is Jesus only. No, that didn't sound convincing. I need the right 70 that's not going to throw away their conviction, that you're going to rekindle your personal affirmations, because your neighbor don't know what God has done. Your friends don't know like you know what God has done. But you know how God has shown up for you. Can you open up your mouth in this place tonight. Can you open up your mouth in this place tonight and say, neighbor, it's about Jesus only? Come on, tell somebody, neighbor, it's about Jesus only. Tell them again, tell them, neighbor, it's about Jesus only. Tell somebody on the other side, neighbor, it's about Jesus only. Now show them how you ought to act when you know it's about Jesus. But hold on. He says that it's going to pay off because your struggle is, Lord, when? When? Others are already out the line. Lord, when? Have you forgotten about me, Lord? When? Have you forgotten that I need to be healed, Lord? When? Have you forgotten about my family, Lord? When? Have you forgotten about my church, Lord? When? I can't hear nobody here. Lord, have you forgotten about my membership, Lord? When? Is there anybody here you're suffering with the when syndrome? And your question here tonight as I take my seat is, Lord, when will the door open? Lord, when are you going to do what you say? Lord, when are you going to answer my prayer? And the answer is when you refocus on your predestined arrangement. Everything that God has for you is already prepared and it's already been predetermined what you're going to get. But the question is, have you been productive? I'm not making it up. It's right here in the Bible. It says you're going to get what God has for you after you've done the will of God. So you're waiting on God to make a way, and God is waiting on you to keep his will. I don't have nothing deep to tell you, and I'm getting ready to sit down. Shake a neighbor's hand and say, neighbor, when you do God's will, then that's when things are going to start turning in your favor. Shake another neighbor's hand and help them out because they've been stressed, they've been depressed, they are tense right now, they're on pills and potions right now. Because things are not happening, they can't sleep at night, they can't digest their food, they are struggling at work, all because they're trying to figure out, Lord, when is this thing going to turn? God says, you're waiting on me, but God says, I'm waiting on you. God says, you want me to keep my schedule. God says, I want you to keep my schedule. Shake a neighbor's hand and say, neighbor, when you do what he says, hold hands along your row and say, neighbor, on this row right here, don't get in trouble with God. Because you're sitting too close to me. I want to make sure that you're all right with God. I know Jonah has nothing to do with this particular passage. I've been trained. I know it has nothing to do with here. But sometimes you can be hanging around people that's in trouble with God. Look at your neighbor, look him in the eye and say, I just need to know, are you all right with God? I don't need to know how much money you got, what kind of car you drive, where you stay. I don't need to know what kind of clothes you got on. I just need to know, are you all right with God? Here's the last question that I have for the text. Here's the last question I have, and I say good night. Is Lord, what happens?
What happened? Come on,
when I'm suffering with the wind, and then I do your will, but you still don't make a way. Because some pastor is saying, I followed all the prerequisites, I've read all the books, I'm doing everything that my presidents and my moderators, they've told me to do. I've done everything my pastor told me to do. I'm trying this. I see the TV evangelist doing this. I try this. I try a little of that. I try a little of this, and nothing is still working out. You're saying I'm trying everything that they told me to do with my children and with my home and with my relationship, but yet it's still failing. I don't eat red meat. Then I don't eat pork. I don't eat this. I don't eat that. But my health is still bad. What do I do when, God, I'm doing your will and I'm still suffering with a wind? Shake a neighbor's hand and say, neighbor, that wind is getting the best of me. But tell him I ain't gonna let it die now. Oh man, look at another neighbor and say, neighbor, that wind is getting the best of me. But I'm not gonna let my conviction die now. I'm not gonna let my joy die now. I'm not gonna let my enemies get the best of me now. I'm not gonna quit on my church now. I'm not going to stop my ministry now. I'm not going to stop supporting my church now. I got to do what the Lord wants me to do, but in case there's still a wind, it's very simple. It's right here. He says, it ought to be in verse 38. He says there ought to be a reliable path of abiding. Here it is. When you still got the wind and you've done what he told you to do, you're keeping his will, and the wind is still getting the best of you, the just shall live by faith. That's the whole sermon. That's the whole sermon. I said the just. This is not a moment by moment thing. Faith got to be a lifestyle and not just a lip service. Slip your arms around somebody and say, neighbor, you got to live by faith. Come on, tell them like you mean it, neighbor. You got to learn how to live by faith. You got to go out of here tonight, going back to your own churches and keeping your fire burning, because your pastor has a vision. And you got to help him get the vision done. But the only way he can get the vision of the house to go forth, he has to have some people that's on fire. Is there anybody here tonight that remember the old hymn that they used to sing down south? That I wish somebody here would just catch on fire. Shake somebody's hand and say, neighbor, I wish you would catch on fire tonight. Look at him again and say, neighbor, I wish you would catch on fire tonight. Look at another neighbor and say, neighbor, that I got a feeling that God will turn that thing around. Do I have a witness here? And I stopped by to tell y'all tonight that if you live by faith and keep your fire, God will give you favor in some unfavorable situations. Have I got a witness here? And aren't you glad tonight that we have a Savior that didn't let his fire die? Because he went all the way to Calvary. Do I have some witnesses here? Tell somebody, neighbor, he kept his burning until he died on Calvary. But early, yeah, somebody shout early, early power in his hands. And that's why I'm on fire. That's why I burn tonight.